Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are so excited to have you here for your Greenland pre-expedition briefing. And it is my pleasure to start by introducing you to Karen Strand. She's the Vice President of Expeditions Development. So, Karen, over to you.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much for that. And you had to do all the technical stuff. I hope we all got that so we can get moving. But welcome everybody to this webinar. We are so excited to be able to connect with you before you travel. So we are three people here that are going to take you through this webinar, both from a presentation point of view and also questions and answers. So I have the delight to introduce Torstein Gaustad, a proud Norwegian from the Trøndelag area and one of our very, very good expedition leaders that has been on the ships and been in Hurtigruten for many years, both on the Norwegian coast and now lately the last few years in expeditions. He is a bundle of joy and a lot of good atmosphere around Torstein. So you're going to feel a little bit of his energy as we go through the webinar. And he has a very good knowledge about Greenland. He has been to Greenland now for the last few seasons. So he is starting to get Greenland under his skin, right, Torstein?
Absolutely. It is way under my skin. Thank you very much for the introduction, Karen. And then I will continue to introduce Verena Meraldi, our chief scientist. Verena Meraldi is a biologist and has a PhD in immunology. She started working with HX in 2007 as a lecturer in Antarctica. And in 2018, she took the role of chief scientist and focused on developing the science and education program. Verena leads our science collaborations with research institutions and works closely with the guest scientists that join our ships.
Thank you for that introduction, Torstein. And it is my pleasure now to introduce Karin. Karin started expedition travel in 2002 already. She was working as a chief purser originally and then became one of our longest standing expedition leaders in Hurtigruten. She was actually my very first expedition leader in 2007 when I started with the Hurtigruten. And she's not only an excellent girl, she's also godmother of one of the world's first hybrid-powered cruise ship, our own MS Roald Amundsen. She is also chair of the Arctic Association of Expedition Cruise Operators. She is the chair of the executive committee. Over to you, Karin.
That sounded a lot more than I actually think about it daily, but that's us three. So we're going to guide you through this with a lot of years of experience in Greenland amongst us. So I don't think there are going to be a lot of questions we can't answer. So we're going to go through this agenda with an overview of your expedition, which Torstein is going to take you through. And then number 3 is actually the topic we get most questions about is about clothing and equipment. And I totally understand that, considering that you are about to pack for an area of the world which can be quite difficult to pack for, considering is it warm, is it cold, or whatever. And we will give you a good insight to that. A little bit about wildlife science and education, which Torstein and Verena is going to take you through, excursions and activities, and then practical information. And then we're going to try to keep this short so that we have time enough for your questions towards sort of 1/3 through and then 2/3 with questions so that you have time. So I think we'll just move on and we'll start with you, Torstein, about the destination.
The destination that you are coming to. When I first arrived in Greenland, I was amazed by the vastness of it. 27,000 miles of coastline with fewer than 60,000 residents. Greenland is really one of the most remote and pristine places, and you will marvel at the magnificent mountains, the beautiful glaciers, and the many glittering icebergs, but also, and most important maybe, the fantastic local culture that you will meet in Greenland that has 1,000 years of history surviving in this Arctic climate. And some of these ships that will take you there, Karin.
Yes, they will, if I can get my thing to work here. We have 3 ships. There we go. We have 3 ships that are going to take you to Greenland. Out of you are booked on one of them. So we start from the left, or my left, which is MS Fridtjof Nansen, the newest ship in the fleet, one of our hybrid vessels that will be mostly focusing on itineraries on the west coast of Greenland. Then we have maybe the one closest to my heart, but that's sort of very subjective. It is MS Fram that will focus on the east coast of Greenland. And then you have MS Maud, who's a little bit in between. It will do mostly east coast, but also a little bit of west coast. And they're all excellent vessels. We are very proud of all 3 of them. And what is maybe good with all 3 of them, there's excellent space to be watching outside, because these are destinations you really just need to be outside most of the time to see. So we're going to move on. Torstein, more about our itineraries.
So our itineraries this summer season is on these 3 different ships, and you will see the maps of the different itineraries here. MS Maud will have 1 trip under the midnight sun in the mid of summer, cruising along the west coast of Greenland. And MS Fridtjof Nansen have several trips along the west coast of Greenland as well. The west coast of Greenland, you will get a combination of the fantastic scenery and nature landings and cruisings, and also visits to many of the communities, small communities along the west coast. On the 2 other itineraries, they focus on the east coast of Greenland. MS Fram will do the ultimate fjord expedition into Scoresby Sound Fjord, and also MS Maud will have a visit in the Scoresby Sound Fjord, which also includes Svalbard and Iceland. Scoresby Sound Fjord is an immense system of fjords and glaciers that spans over 24,000 square miles or 62,000 square kilometers. It is rarely visited and is only accessible for a few months each year.
It actually is the largest fjord system in the world.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And on our expeditions, we have, of course, done expeditions to Svalbard since 1896. It was a Norwegian that crossed Greenland for the first time, and that was, of course, Nansen. So these expeditions are part of our DNA. We want to take you on a mindful adventure in ultimate luxury. And here as well, you can travel with the peace of mind of traveling with the most sustainable expedition cruise company. Greenland is one of the last vast wilderness areas in the world, and we, of course, want to keep it that way as well. On board all of our ships, we will have a magnificent expedition team that is there for the curious traveler, answering all your questions. We have marine scientists, photographers, biologists, we have geologists, and also, of course, activity guides that will take you on adventures. So do approach the expedition team on board with all your questions so they can tell you more about the nature and wildlife. And we will also have some local experts from Greenland on the expeditions, so that can tell you more about the history and the culture, and also, of course, modern day life in Greenland.
And then I'll take you through a little bit about ice, because we are going to a part of the world where we do have sea ice and glacier ice that is floating around like a gallery, a very interesting kind of concept when it comes to ocean and ice. This is what you'll see when you go to Greenland. You will actually more or less see glacier ice close to the glaciers, but early season and on the east coast, you will see also sea ice, which you can see on the left picture, the one with a walrus in the picture. That's typically sea ice. And the glacier ice carves off the glacier fronts, which is then bigger chunks of ice. Now, I'd like to just go a little bit through, if you want to make yourself known to the ice charts in Greenland, I have made a little link there to the DMI ice charts, which is the Danish Meteorology Institute, and they update that in the season, summer-wise, almost every day. Not in weekends, but Monday to Friday. And what we do have, as you can see here on the red, if you're going to sort of just explain it, red is 9 out of 10. So that's very, very close drift ice. Means that it's not fast ice anymore. So it's not connected to land. So it's mobile, but it's very dense. Orange is then close, and then it gets weaker and weaker as the colors morph into yellow, green, and blue. But what you can see, this is a picture I took out of the DMI yesterday, just to be accurate. You can see that the ice on the east coast is still miles and miles from land. So it means that even in small places like Tasiilaq, where there are people living, there is still probably not even ships coming in to give them provisioning. They have to get everything with plane. So it's going to take a few weeks before they can actually get boats in to do their provisioning. So this will change a lot over the next few months. And for anyone knowing Greenland a little bit, this corner here on the very south tip, you can see that little picture that I put on the left, where you see none as one of the places. That particular area in June and part of July can have a bit of ice. So Prince Christian Sound can be clogged completely with ice. There's also heavy activity up around Disco Sound, also because you have the ice fjord spewing out ice on a large scale, which means that that could drift out miles out of Sat, and meaning that there is chance for you guys to see ice as it's floating around in the waters. Dense ice, not so much unless right there on the very tip of Greenland, southern tip, and up in the Disco area for those who are doing west coast of Greenland. For those of you who have chosen east coast of Greenland, ice is maybe the most exciting part of the whole trip, I have to say. Whether you actually come to Scoresby Sound and find that you have to use more or less a full day to get to your landing site, or even you might have to change your plans, or we have to change plans because there's too much ice. That's part of the fun. That's part of the excitement of being on a journey of an expedition part. So for you guys who are going to East Greenland, enjoy the ice. For you going to West Greenland, enjoy every ice bit you can get, south and in the north. Now, Torstein.
And then we have some clothing and equipment. We get a lot of questions on this. What to pack for Greenland? In short, everything. The temperatures can vary quite a bit in Greenland. You can have some warm and sunny days with less wind, where you could actually go out in shorts and t-shirt. But immediately when the clouds come or the wind pick up, then you will start feeling very cold. It can also be very cold days, especially north of the Arctic Circle, also during summer. So we will provide you with an HX shell jacket. So it is a thin jacket, but it has a very good water resistance, so an outer layer. Then we do recommend to bring a medium layer jacket and wind and water resistant trousers. When you are going on small boat activities, small boat cruising, there will always be a bit of water spray. So even in good weather, we do strongly recommend to have water resistant trousers on. We recommend layering up so that if it is warm, you can take something off. And if you are too cold, you can have a small layer to put on. Long thermal underwear and top. Wool is recommended, a warm hat, cap, or headband, and I always bring a thinner hat and a thicker woolen hat for those colder days. I would say the same for gloves. Some smaller gloves that are not as thick, and also thick gloves for the cold days that are also waterproof. Scarf or a fleece tube, I often use a buff and have them also in different thicknesses. Warm socks is recommended, and several of them in case you get wet. Swimwear to use on board in the jacuzzi and the pool, and if you want to do the polar plunge during the voyage. The sun is very strong and reflecting from ice. It can feel even stronger on your eyes, so we do recommend sunglasses and to bring a high factor sunscreen. Always remember extra batteries for your camera equipment, comfortable flat shoes for use on board. It can be slippery out on deck, so we do recommend flat shoes with good traction. The adapter for European power outlets, Type-C plug, and also for summer in Greenland. There is one animal that you will frequently meet, and that is the amazing, wonderful, and interesting Greenland mosquitoes. So do have mosquito net and a strong mosquito repellent. You will need it when you go ashore. Then we often get questions about hiking boots and which boots we offer. So on the next slide here, we have the hiking footwear that we recommend. We will give you some rubber boots that is mandatory to use on our nature landings because of biosecurity that Karin will get back to a little bit later. We do in the community visits have some hikes that the expedition team offer. And for these hikes, it is necessary with sturdy hiking boots with good soles. We strongly recommend high hiking boots with ankle support, anti-slip soles, and waterproof. Low hiking shoes can work, but they need to have a good grip. And also for these expedition hikes that we offer on the voyage, we will provide hiking poles, trekking poles for you when you participate in these hikes. And for the next equipment that is really necessary, Verena.
Thank you. We highly recommend you to bring a pair of these on board. Binoculars you will be already using from while on board when we offer the deck watches. You can join our experts on the decks spotting wildlife, and having a binocular with you will come very handy, and it will also enhance your experience. So if you want to bring, and also, can you click, Karin, please, for the next? If you want, no, back one.
Is it back
There
one?
you go.
No, there.
No. And
there?
Then one click to make the books appear.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Sorry.
If you want to bring an identification guide along, if you love books, then we can recommend this too. The Arctic Guide is a good general guide that includes over 800 species of animals, birds, fishes, butterflies, and plants. So it's a very good all-over general book. And the handbook for whales, dolphins, and porpoises, as you can guess, focuses on marine mammals, and it's very good for whale identification. Next.
And then we come to some wildlife science and education. And there is, of course, an abundance of wildlife in Greenland. Greenland is vast, and many of the animals here are hunted, so you will not find these animals close to human settlements. The muskox is often one that we can see, and for those who are knitters, we also do recommend to buy some muskox wool while you are in Greenland. There is plenty of opportunities to spot whales in Greenland, and we have a lot of species of whales along the coast of Greenland, including humpback whales, and there is also the chance to see porpoises and dolphins feeding in the food-rich water around the fjords. Some of the land animals that you might be able to spot if you are lucky is, of course, the Arctic fox, the Arctic hare, wolverines, and for the East Coast itineraries, there is a chance of spotting polar bears. They are not frequently spotted on the west coast of Greenland.
And sorry, Torstein, but you are forgetting a very important part of the life that we will be able to see, which is the water life. Water is teeming with life. Yes. So we will be collecting water samples, and we will be revealing this abundant life to you during sessions in our science centers using our microscopes. And since I have taken over from you, Torstein, may I continue talking about the bird life that you will see. There is a range of bird life in Greenland that is very, very diverse, with more than 300 and 230 observed species of birds, either living in Greenland year-round or visiting as a seasonal migrant. Some of the birds that you can see also include birds of prey. When you are around the shores or while sailing, you may see the northern fulmars, common eiders, or red knots. And while on land, you may encounter some snow buntings, fieldfares, or hoary redpolls. These are all 6 common species. Can I have the next one, Karin?
Yes.
And for all of those who love birds, probably the birders already know about this app. It's called the Merlin ID app. It is an amazing application for those who want to learn more about birds. It is free to download. You can follow the QR code that appears on the screen now. And this app not only provides you with lists of the kind of birds that you can expect to see in regions, make sure to download the data or the bird package for the region that you will visit, but it also allows you to identify the birds by sound, which is amazing.
And then I will move into the flora. I think that is what surprised me most when I went to Greenland the first time, was really how diverse the Arctic flora is. And you have somewhere around 100 different species, even though it looks really barren. Some places, if you start to look, you really are incredibly impressed with how much variety there is in the Arctic tundra. And as you can see, here are some of the most common ones: gray willow, dwarf birch as well. It's actually a forest. Even though it doesn't look like one, the dwarf birch makes out a forest, not in the traditional sense, but in the Arctic sense. And you have willow herbs, and the moss campion is absolutely gorgeous because they are in these very sort of tight-knit little groups. And we do sort of recommend everyone to tread lightly so that we don't step on too much vegetation and flora. There will be paths most of the places where it's perfectly fine to do, but I've seen many a guest on their knees and in order to take these fantastic pictures of flora. So highly recommended to not overlook the flora that you will see also in Greenland. So there's so much to see. And going back to what a little bit of the slides that were before, all of them kind of goes back to Verena's first slide, which was the binocular. A lot of these, the whales, for example, it is a patience game to be seeing whales. It doesn't pop out of nothing. It takes sometimes hours standing out, but then the reward is so amazing when you do see them. So we are moving on. Verena.
Excellent. Thank you, Karin. So as part of our science and education program, we support a number of citizen science projects for you guys to participate. And these projects will be led by our experts on board so that they can guide you in how to contribute to this popular data collection that really supports science, particularly in very difficult to access areas where researchers can rarely go to or where we are lacking information to inform decision making. So if you are interested in participating in the citizen science projects, we have a collection of projects that we support. And Karin, if you can give me the next slide, you can be prepared for the trip if you want to participate in the citizen science projects, because just as a note, internet, although available, can be patchy, and the widthband may not allow for downloading of the applications like eBird or iNaturalist or the NASA Globe Observer. So in order to prevent you from being frustrated of not being able to download the application when you come on board, you can follow these links and come with the applications already installed in your devices. And you can also learn more about Happy Whale, for example, which is not supported by an app, but has a web page where you can learn about this project. And lastly, if you are interested in the archaeological remains, then you definitely want to download the JETA World Heritage application, because you will be probably visiting World Heritage archaeological remain sites in Greenland. And also part of our science and education program, we host guest scientists on board our ships. We invite them to join us and use our ships as platforms of opportunity. For the Arctic, for Greenland, we have a few selected departures that have already confirmed guest scientists joining. And these are on MS Fridtjof Nansen. We will be sharing researchers from 3 German institutions, AVI, Geomar, and Hereon, which are part of a larger project called Shaping an Ocean of Possibilities, or ZOOP Innovation Platform. And the idea behind this project is to develop easy and transferable technology that collect data that can be used on any kinds of ship, not only research vessels, but also tourist vessels, fishing vessels, cargo, and so on and so on. So researchers from Geomar or from ZOOP will be on board for the departures of June the 24th, July the 9th, and July the 24th. On MS Mod, we will have researchers from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and they will be studying the emerging contaminants in the Arctic marine environment. For this purpose, they will be collecting mussels, algae, fish, and also fecal samples from land. The samples will be analyzed later at UNIS, University Center in Svalbard, and the Science and Technology University. And they will be on board MOD for the departures of July the 18th and September the 1st. This will give you an amazing opportunity to interact with the guest scientists, discuss about the research projects with them, and also maybe take action and help them in the sample collection. Thank you, Karin.
Oh, this is so exciting. You can look forward to being on one of these trips. Okay, Torstein.
Then I will take you into some of the activities and excursions that we will offer on the voyage. We often get the questions, what is included and what is optional? I already mentioned that on the West Coast itineraries, there will be a combination of community visits and our exploration days with nature landings and cruisings. These small boat cruisings and nature landings are included for everyone. And you will be divided into animal groups, boat groups, when you come on board, and the onboard team will explain you the process. You go cruising in narrow fjords to see wildlife, icebergs, glaciers, and on nature landings, you land in untouched, pristine areas, and you have a fantastic walk or a longer hike in these nature areas. And here, as I mentioned before, the rubber boots that we provide will be mandatory because of biosecurity. As Karin also mentioned, you need to be outside as much as possible. And there are many areas on this voyage where we will have some scenic ship cruising, where the expedition team will be outside helping you to spot the wildlife and explaining about the wildlife and scenery around you. It is very good to have them there, so you know if you see through your binoculars a rock that might be moving on the mountaintop, is it a rock or is it a muskox? And on the water, in the water, is it a whale or is it a wave? So have the expedition team there, they will assist you, and do ask them if you are unsure about what you are seeing. On the next slide, we also have some optional excursion activities that you can choose on the way. If you go one back, please, Karin.
Yeah.
There we will also have some hikes that are offered in the communities, and we will have kayak trips where the conditions allow. More information about the chosen hikes for That trip and also the places where we can do kayaking will be provided to Onboard, and you sign up for these additional activities on board the ship. And also on board the ship, you can, of course, join the science team out, Verena.
Yes, for some of the citizen science projects that we support, we need to go out on a Zodiac to be able to collect the data. So we offer science boats. With this, we want to offer you the opportunity to experience oceanographic data collection in real life and even help collecting it. We will be collecting plankton samples, which we will then examine in the Science Center afterwards. And our experts will also guide you in the use of special equipment to measure the water temperature and salinity in relation to its depth. And as Torstein mentioned, we will, for this activity, you need to sign in. We try to run as many science boats as possible, so make sure to sign in if you want to be a part of this. There is a lottery system to allow everyone interested in joining the science boat.
We also have,
Yes,
we also have excursions in the community visits, and we have one included excursion for all guests in each of the communities that we visit. This you also need to sign up for, so we can know how many guides we would need for these. They range from self-guided visits with entry to local museums to guided walks with local guides from the small community. We also have some optional excursions that you can also book in advance of your trip, like the boat trip to the ice fjord in Ilulissat and many others. Do check your booking confirmation and the information received by HX to find more information about the excursions and how to book them. We do recommend to book your excursions in advance, as some have limited capacity.
And with regards of onboard life, everything that happens throughout the trip will be informed to you during the briefings. This will be including the information about the landings, the cruisings, and very importantly also about the safety on board. This information will also be provided in a daily basis on the daily program, including the on-deck guiding and wildlife spotting session timings, or the timings for the lecture program and the activities in the Science Center, and so on and so on. So really make sure to check the daily program frequently. And of course, everything you experience on board the vessels will be guided by our experts on board. Now to some practical information. Greenland, the official language in Greenland is, well, it's a bilingual country, with Greenlandic being the main language and then Danish the second language. The currency is the Danish kroner, and some foreign currencies may be exchanged into local currency at banks, but be aware that there's only a few banks to be found in bigger cities in Greenland and not in smaller communities. So if you want to purchase items directly from community members, for example, their artworks, it is advisable to bring cash in Danish kroner for you to be able to purchase things ashore. There is some credit cards that are accepted in some places, but again, this in bigger places, not in smaller communities. So we highly recommend you to try to get your hands into some cash. The weather, the average temperature in the summer is between 5 to 10 degrees Celsius or 43 to 50 Fahrenheit, but this can change, or the feeling can be a bit warmer because of the dry air. Please keep in mind that the weather is unpredictable in Greenland, and it can vary from sun, fog, low clouds to rain very, very quickly.
All in one day.
All in one day, exactly. The whole year in 24 hours.
Yeah.
We do have Wi-Fi. It's provided by Starlink, but as I mentioned before, connection can be very patchy and weak, and it doesn't allow for streaming. It is a good thing to remain connected, and WhatsApp, for example, works very well as a communication. Over to you, Karin.
Yes, I'm just going to quickly take you through biosecurity and focus on avian flu. I think you probably have heard about the avian flu that is taking its toll on many bird species and even mammals. So we have, through our industry association, IECO, with all the expedition operators, come to an agreement on what measures we should take. So we need to take extra care on biosecurity this year to not spread the avian flu in the bird-rich areas of the north, because it's extra vulnerable up there. So we will offer you hoover to hoover your clothing, especially Velcro is at risk to gather biomaterial from your home or even from place to place. So we try to reduce both what comes alien from mainland Europe or the US or wherever you come from, and also to not spread the biomaterial from site to site, because that could also have devastating effects. So you will be informed about disinfectant and cleaning procedures when you come on board. But just so you know already now that we're going to have a heightened focus this year on cleaning our gear. I think we have here on passports. See, there is already a thing in the middle there. We were checking this out before we took on this webinar. But what we do, you have to check whether you need a visa from your country to enter Greenland. There were some changes last year, but not anything drastic, in the sense that just check on the embassy's websites or on your own foreign department sites to see if you need any visa for Greenland. But we do require that everyone carries a passport. So doesn't matter if you're Danish or if you are Norwegian or if you are in a neighboring country, you gotta have to bring your passport. So that is the baseline of all of this. Bring your passport. Verena.
And then some medical information. So it is very important to be aware that in case of a medical emergency in Greenland, the only means of evacuation is by airplane or helicopter to the nearest town with that has a hospital. Please also note that there is a limited number of hospitals in Greenland. Only the larger towns have hospitals, and smaller settlements may only have a nurse. So, and if they are not able to handle the situation, then the patient will be transferred to Nuuk. It is very expensive and dependent on favorable weather conditions to do this. Therefore, a comprehensive travel health insurance policy that covers medical evacuation is highly recommended. We also recommend that you bring your medication and maybe a bit more than what you normally would need for the duration of your trip, and that you bring this along in your hand luggage, not in the checked-in luggage, in case your suitcase gets lost, which unfortunately can be often in Greenland. If you are prone to seasickness or are not sure how you will react, we recommend you that you bring seasickness medication along, especially if you already know which one will work best for you. But know that you can also get this kind of medication when on board if needed. And as Thorstein already highlighted, the very abundant wildlife that you will see in Greenland, there are many insects, especially in July and August. So we recommend you to bring repellent and even a mosquito net. And if you are allergic to insect bites, then also bring some antihistamine.
Okay.
And then
there we go.
At the end, just short information about flight details. So you should have received flight information. If not, you can of course reach out to the customer service, and we will put up a slide with the contact information for the different countries. About 30 days before your sailing, you will receive all your travel documentation, where you have detailed information on your hotel, transfer, where you meet the staff on site, and contact details during arrival and departure. There was already a question in the pre-questions about when the ships arrive and when disembarkation is. There are 4 different itineraries here, and they all start and end in Reykjavik. The embarkation is in the afternoon, but do look at your travel documents for the embarkation on your itinerary, and disembarkation is in the morning. However, if you are booking your own flights, do make room for good time from disembarkation to your flight departure. These ships are coming over the Denmark Strait. It can be a bit of weather, so you can have some small delays on arrival in Reykjavik, so do take that into consideration when you are booking your own flights. And then we go into Q&A.
We do. We absolutely do. So I think Jesse and everyone, if you can lead us on.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse. I will be the voice in a box as we go through these questions and answers. Before we get started, though, I do want to mention that we do have a lot of our frequently asked questions, which are also the questions you submitted previously, available to download in the chat. So at the bottom near where you've been entering, you open the Q&A. There's also a chat. If you open that, there are frequently asked questions to download as well. But let's get started here. Okay. First question. This is a very sweet question. It was answered already, but I would like to hear your responses as well. Is it appropriate to bring gifts to Íþróttatormið? And if so, what would you recommend?
Oh, yes, it definitely is, knowing Íþróttatormið very well. School supplies, things for the kids in school, I would say, would be very, very grateful. And things for children. They don't get a lot sent up there. There's a very small community. So we have given a lot of school supplies to Íþróttatormið over the years, and they love it. So yeah, think of the children, guys. Think of the children.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen. Next question. What types of mammals might we see on the West Coast in July?
But yeah, with Torstein, you and I can take this one together, and Verena as well. But July is when the whales are kind of arriving there, sort of mid-June to beginning of July. So humpbacks can be seen, but again, you need to use your binoculars and, actually be on the lookout for them. So I think that would be the mammals, I would say. And muskox will be available all summer at certain locations. It's not everywhere in Greenland where you see muskox. They are actually putting herds out at different locations now, and cultivate them for hunting for later. But that's an income source for the Greenlanders into the future. So there are areas like in South Greenland, you will find them around the Kangerlussuaq area. You will find them, and you will also find them on the East Coast. You will find them in Scoresby Sound, and you will find them in the national park. Yeah. So every region or every itinerary has a area where you can see muskox. So I would say whales and muskox. I don't know, Torstein, if you have anything else, Verena.
We have reindeer as well. We sometimes see up in Disco Bay. We do have spotted Arctic fox, but they are difficult to spot. Yeah. They are very, very well camouflaged. So then you need to really stand outside with your binoculars for an hour to see if any of the grass moves. But,
extra price for that.
For those who find it.
For those who see them.
Yeah. Exactly. But don't forget the life in the oceans as well. I mean, when you get to the port, you can also see a lot of zooplankton swimming around the pontoon and such. So also keep an eye on that kind of wildlife.
Exactly. And you have such an amazing opportunity to get to know the kind of wildlife that you maybe never even thought about, because you have this team on board that are experts. So, you can learn something and see something around you that you might never even have noticed before. They're still there, but you never noticed them. And this is the joy, the joy and the journey for you to get to know more about what actually lives in and around the environment you're going to be in. I think it's fantastic.
All right, thank you. I'm going to combine two questions into one here. Will we be able to walk among the alpine flowers, and are we able to wander around the settlements alone without being on an organized tour?
Yes to both. Yes to both. You will have free time in the settlements. I don't know, Torstein, if you would like to say more about the settlements, how you move around.
You will have free time in the settlements and in the communities, especially on the west coast. The itinerary there is the possibility to walk around outside of town, but the expedition team will always give you recommendation on where it is advisable to walk on your own. So do follow the advice of the expedition team on board.
And Verena, would you like to say something about the sort of the how to move around the plants, how to be a good plant watcher, or even, not destroying?
Yeah, just maybe try to stick to already established paths, or in the case there are no paths, be very careful not to walk immediately over the flowering plants and so on and so on. But this is also a great opportunity when you're doing that to take photos and submit them to iNaturalist, for example.
Yes. And the good thing about doing it in this area and contributing to iNaturalist is that there isn't that many places or observations. So you will greatly participate to something that's actually very needed. Yeah.
Okay. So next question. What would be the most useful binocular strength?
We had this last time too. I remember it well. If you ask our ornithologist, 8 times 32 is sort of the best, because if you dare, I have a 1042 and that's perfectly fine on board, but you have to have it so still when you have 42 that it becomes really hard. You have to lean on something to get it sharp. Whilst 8.5 to 32 is sort of the ideal when you are walking a little bit, sitting in a boat, where things are moving a little bit. You're going to be a lot in open boats. 8 times 32.
Yep, I agree.
Fantastic. Thank you, Karen. So which Merlin Bird ID pack is best for Greenland? Because they don't seem to have one covering specifically Greenland.
That is true. There is no Greenland one, but then I would recommend downloading East and West Canada as well as Western Palearctic. Then you will be covered.
Thank you, Verena. Here's an interesting one. Can you suggest a sum of Danish kroner to take for purchasing local goods? And I think keeping in mind that for those that might visit the tannery, those are not cheap if you're allowed to bring them home.
Torstein, you take this one.
Well, if you want to support the local communities, 1 million might be depending on what you want to purchase. You have beautiful handicraft that you can buy in many of the communities here, and also this is of course supporting the locals. So I would say bring enough. I have bought arts and crafts ranging from 300 Danish kroners up to 2,500 Danish kroners. So this is all dependent on what you want. If I would give a number, maybe
you already have.
I think I would bring at least maybe 3,000, maybe a bit more if you want to buy more.
I thought the same. Yeah.
So 3,000. I would go for, maybe more if you want more handicraft.
Around $300 to $500 in that.
Yeah, exactly.
In that range, which is 3,000 to 5,000 DKK.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. So let's see. Here's a popular one. Any reading recommendations before the trip?
Well, I will say just personally off the bat, nonsense Greenland Crossing is actually a fantastic book. So I strongly recommend to read that one. That is one of my favorite books of all time. So my strong recommendation.
We could maybe post a little reading list for you with 4 or 5 books that could be, because we have also Danish authors, and I personally also like I don't know the English title of it. I'll find it out. I know it's translated, but it's the Reverend of Evighetsfjord, because we're going to go into Evighetsfjord, and that story is so incredible. So guys who are on this call, I think we will post a couple of 2, 3, 4, 5 books for you, so you can either bring with you or read before or read after. Maybe even reading them after will give you a more sense of it. So yeah, let's do that, Torstein, Verena.
Absolutely.
Try to get those to everyone in an email afterwards. Okay, so will we see any of you on board the ships this summer?
If you're going in mid-June, I think it's 9th of June, going with Nansen, I will be there. That I know. And maybe even on one of the East Greenland trips with Maud. So I might be popping up before you know it. But if you have been on this webinar and you see me or Torstein or Verena, please come and say hi as soon as you see us on the first day or whatever. We would love to say hi to you. Although we can't see you, it feels like we kind of, have connected already.
Yes.
Okay, so we're down to just the last few questions. Do you have a specific bug repellent you recommend?
I don't have a brand, and honestly, I've tried so many over the years, and they all kind of work. They're quite good. If you can go with any standard repellent, I would say. I don't know, Torstein, Verena, if you have any brands that you do. I've gone with anything, and it's worked pretty well.
I don't have any particular brand, but I usually make sure I buy an updated one. Sometimes if you have had one for several years, it does not work anymore. So I have noticed that myself as well. When I took one from home that was 3, 4 years old, and it did not work. So do check that.
Yeah. I know there's a brand called Mygga, but that's in Scandinavia, and that has been good, and they sell that almost everywhere. But
yeah, and if you want to go nature or bio, then you can also get something lemongrass based that will help.
That's a good point. Lemongrass based for.
Okay, so one more question. We're down to our last minute, and this is just to clarify something from earlier with the binoculars.
Yeah.
The 8x32 versus the 8x42.
Yeah. So clarification on the 42. It just means that the stability, because it gives you option of light, and it just brings in more light when you're doing 32 versus 42, and that distorts the vision when you have movement. So if you're standing with your hands like this and looking into it, the shaking of your hands, even though you're not shaking that much, will distort your focus. But with 32, you have less light in, so that means that you have less disruption. So it's easier for you to keep a steady focus with a 32 versus a 42. But if you stand still and you lean on something, so you're more, then 42 will work, but it's more cumbersome, and I've learned that the hard way, kind of thing. Yeah. So
thank you, Karen. And I'll add to that real quick. The small number is the magnification.
Magnification, yeah.
The larger number is the size of the lens.
Correct.
So the larger the lens, the less stable.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all we have time for right now. Any very pertinent questions we didn't have a chance to get to, we will answer in an email later to everyone. And I believe, Lee, you'll take over from here.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right. Well, thank you. Yes, thank you all very much. This was so informative and wonderful. We will, again, make sure that everyone has access to the replay. We would love to get your feedback on how you found this presentation, if you found it helpful. To that end, there will be a survey that will pop up when the webinar is over. If you would take a moment, please, and answer that. We love all of the hearts and claps and emojis and so forth. And I know everyone is excited to be welcoming you on board. So with that, we will wish you all a great day and conclude our webinar. Goodbye, everyone.
Have a great time aboard, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Welcome aboard.